5 C's of the parcel business is the topic of my conversation today with Jason Smith, Relationship Manager with US Bank. Hi, Jason.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks for being with me. So, the
Yep.
5 C's of the parcel business, let's run them down.
Yeah.
Customers, carriers, consistency, capacity, and cost. Which of those is most important today?
Today, cost. Cost is most important to shippers today, and quite frankly, it's also important to carriers as well. In the post-pandemic environment, the cost of everything has gone up. We all know that. We read that in the news, we see it on TV. The logistics industry is not immune to that. Carriers have to pay drivers more, they have to buy trucks, which are more expensive, and they have to wait a long time for the trucks. Therefore, all of those constraints increase the cost for the carrier. That is passed on to the shipper, who now has to pay higher freight rates to move their goods.
If I had asked you that question pre-pandemic, what would you have said?
I would say it'd be more about the customer versus cost. Although cost is always important, before the pandemic, shippers, retailers, manufacturers had to focus on maintaining the customer experience and keeping the customer happy because of the buying power that was experienced before the pandemic.
Very interesting, Jason, because companies give lip service, at least to the idea that it's all about the customer. And in fact, some will tell me the exact opposite of what you just told me, and that is, well, cost, it used to be all about cost, but now it's all about the customer. But it's kind of refreshing to hear you say that that is still very much a concern in a time of rising costs. So,
It is.
yeah.
In an environment where you have 9% inflation, the cost of goods are higher than we've seen ever, and fears of a potential recession and upcoming midterm elections, cost is something that shippers have to either absorb in their P&L, they have to just accept the margin erosion in some cases, but they try not to pass it to the customer, and if they do, they cannot charge more for freight because customers are used to free shipping.
Sure.
So now they have to absorb it in their cost of goods. So they're raising the price of the good but maintaining free shipping.
Okay, so, however, it is still a question that customers are extremely picky, extremely demanding. If they have a bad experience with a retailer, and even if it's the fault of the parcel carrier, they won't do business with that retailer ever again. So tell me about this so-called secret sauce that's out there about balancing customer promise with cost.
Right, so retailers can do a couple of things to maintain balance or get the two as balanced as you can. One of those is set forth the expectation of the delivery time to the customer and make it realistic. Some people would call it padding a transit time. But what you're doing is you're establishing the expectation with the customer that the product may not arrive until 5 or 7 days. And by doing that, you're maintaining a customer promise. It may not be next day, but it's still a promise.
At least you're telling them.
Exactly, you're telling them that it's going to be there in 5 to 7 days. And then with that type of service, you're going to pay lower freight cost because it's not an expedited program from a carrier.
Right. And yet carriers still need to manage volume commitments in the face of capacity constraints. In the last peak season, we saw the big parcel companies putting capacity limits on their big customers.
Absolutely.
So still an issue, right?
It's still an issue. And it's going to be an issue in this type of market environment that we're in now. One of the things to think about as a shipper that the carriers would appreciate and enhances that shipper and carrier relationship is forecasting, data modeling. As a shipper and a retailer, for example, that's going to be shipping thousands of packages a day in peak season, work with the carrier and provide them transparent data on what you believe how your business is going to perform. Give them that data so they can plan in advance to have 6 trailers at your distribution center versus 4, for example. Carriers will appreciate that transparency, and it's going to enhance the relationship between the shipper and the carrier, which eventually is going to help the shipper with more negotiating power, if you will, or the willingness for the carrier to help on things like freight rates.
So the shipper has a responsibility on its end,
Yes.
too. It has to hold up some commitments in order to make it, easier for the carrier to serve that shipper.
Absolutely. It is a relationship business. It became a little less of a relationship business right after COVID because carriers had the power, right? If you want the truck, you're going to pay X, or you don't get the truck. As the post-pandemic continues and we evolve to a bit more of a normalcy, close to what we were experiencing before the pandemic, shippers are going to have the ability to better negotiate freight rates because the capacity constraints are going to loosen up. Not significantly, but we believe there is an opportunity in the near future to work with the large parcel carriers, UPS, FedEx, and DHL, to renegotiate rates if you have a strong partnership with your carrier sales rep and their leadership team, and you're viewed as a shipper of choice and a partner, and not someone that necessarily just expects next day shipping for a cheap price.
Yeah. So not really a power struggle in which each side attempts to dominate the other in any given moment.
Right.
But really you're looking for a balance where both sides are making commitments, making promises, and working together.
Yeah,
in a collaborative way.
Absolutely. One way to think about it is if you're a retailer and you have your own trucks, all retailers who have their own trucks also hire third-party carriers to support, I should say, extra capacity.
Yeah.
Well, you're not going to treat your internal logistics team like you would an external provider. You're going to be a partner. And that's the way that shippers should manage their third-party carrier relationships.
Okay, so great insights, Jason. Thank you very much for that. Let me just take a moment, though, to ask U.S. Bank. Where are you guys in this whole picture, especially on freight payment and that type of thing? What's going on with you guys right now?
Yeah. U.S. Bank, our program at U.S. Bank provides the shipper the benefits of audit. So you're auditing the freight rate, tremendous data visibility. So you have visibility to your freight volume. And then also we provide the safe, secure, and reliable payment to the freight carrier. So with our program, shippers don't have to worry about carriers being paid, and they can also relax at night because they know they're paying for freight what their contract says they should be paying for. Carriers enjoy the immediate payment, and then also they have visibility into their data within our program. So it's truly a collaborative solution between the shipper and the carrier to facilitate that fast, accurate, reliable payment.
Jason, thank you so much for your insights into the 5 C's of the parcel business, as well as a little bit about U.S. Bank as well. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure being here.
I've been speaking with Jason Smith of U.S. Bank. Thank you very much for watching.